the topic of this podcast is how to tell if you're on the right side.
Yeah.
So we're gonna figure out. We're gonna play a little game, and you have to guess whether it's guess the religion. When I say something, I'm gonna read a tenet from a religion, and you tell me whether it's Christianity, Satanism, or Pastafarianism.
What is Pastafarianism?
It's the church that I belong to. I am an ordained minister in the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster.
Oh.
Yeah, Pastafarianism.
Yeah, the one where people wear like the strainers on their head.
Yeah, exactly. The one with the strainers. And so so you need to close your eyes because I'm going to bounce back and forth between some web pages.
Okay.
You have to, I'm going to read one at random, and then you guess which religion it's from.
Okay.
Okay? Do not steal. Christianity, Satanism, or Pastafarianism.
Christianity?
Correct.
Yay!
You got one. Do not challenge the bigoted, misogynistic, hateful ideas of others on an empty stomach.
Satanism?
Nope. That's Pastafarianism. One's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone.
What does inviolable mean?
It can't not be violated.
Oh, Christianity?
Incorrect.
What?
You want to have another guess?
No.
No. I'll give you one more guess to get it right. So you're down to either Satanism or Pastafarianism.
It's a 50-50 chance, people.
Yep. It's like taking away one door in the Monty Hall challenge or paradox. There are people yelling at their computers saying the right answer. I can hear them right now.
I can't. Pastafarianism?
Incorrect. Satanism.
Why?
That is one of the 7 tenets of Satanism.
Dang.
We'll try a couple more. See if you can get this one back.
Okay.
All right. So, do not lie.
Christianity?
Yep, that's correct.
Yep.
Do not go around telling people I talk to you. You're not that interesting. Get over yourself. And I told you to love your fellow man. Can't you take a hint?
What the heck? Satanism?
No. Pastafarianism. That's one of the eight tenets of Pastafarianism, or the 8. See, I rephrased these a little bit because if you start with like thou shall not, that's Christianity, and then the other one, if I said I really rather you didn't, well, those are the 8 I'd really rather you didn'ts from Pastafarianism. So let's try one more. People are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that might have been caused.
There was 2 words I don't understand. The rectify.
I'm buying you a dictionary for Christmas.
No.
Anyway, which words?
Repeat it again.
People are fallible.
Yeah, that word. Fallible.
Think of it as failable.
Oh.
Yeah. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm.
Rectify, what does that mean?
Look at it in the context. Do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm.
Christianity?
Nope. Satanism.
Bro, what?
But you can open your eyes now. So but you take my point.
Yeah.
How do you know you're on the right side? It's like I actually did this with your grandmother one time, and I printed out the 7 tenets of Satanism, and she just went, well, but they're Satanists. They're the bad guys. It didn't matter what they were saying. They're the bad guys.
Yeah.
She's Episcopalian, and it's like, yeah, but look at what they're saying. Look at, one should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason. Why is that not in the Christian Bible?
Yeah.
Like, and in fact, the first 3 of the 10 commandments are, I am God and you should worship me, and I am the Lord thy God, you shall worship no gods before me, that type of thing. It's like, the first 3 of the 10 commandments are like, I am God, you respect me and obey me and believe in me and do all these other things. And it's like, well, okay, yeah. Well, can we get to the how we should treat each other? Maybe that's more important.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the Satanic Temple did, was where they, the number 2 is the struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. If you're of a low vocabulary, like yourself, that's a
bruh.
Don't look at me in that tone of voice.
I will.
The struggle for justice, you should pursue justice, and justice should be more important than the laws you make. And so like if somebody breaks the law, let's say somebody steals a loaf of bread, yes, they've broken the law, but if that person was hungry, the just thing to do is to help that person not be hungry anymore.
Yeah.
So they don't have to steal.
Yeah.
That's what that's pertaining to. The one's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. Well, that's a reference to bodily autonomy, which is a huge basis for many of the laws. It's a legal theory that's the basis for many laws in this country, and the reason that Roe versus Wade was allowed to stand for so long, because bodily autonomy is part of that. You have control over your own body, and the Satanic Temple is basically affirming that in their religion. And so if you read the fundamental tenets, they are just real common sense. Be nice to people. You should understand things from a scientific perspective and not based on, you shouldn't distort the truth, and you need to be honest, and you need to be, the one I read was, people are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that might have been caused.
So why are they the bad guys?
That's the whole point of the podcast. How do you know you're on the right side? How do you know? And this stems from, I come at this, and the reason why we're not doing our usual dinking around in the first 15 minutes of this podcast is, number one, we just watched Conan fall apart on Hot Ones, and that was hilarious. And number two, I've been thinking about this for a long time. This particular podcast is one that I've been wanting to do since the podcast started, and it's something I've thought of deeply, and I've thought of for years. There is a documentary called Against All Enemies, and that's part of the oath that you take for the armed forces, to defend against all enemies, both foreign and domestic, is the larger part of it. So Against All Enemies is about how veterans get sucked into, recruited by these paramilitary groups, and what could be considered terrorist organizations, because and why they do it, and how they are recruited. One of the things that it points out, somebody who doesn't get recruited into the organization and is very much against that particular paramilitary organization, and somebody who's inside of it, actually share a love of country. They share a willingness to defend it. Where they start to diverge is how they interpret that oath to defend against enemies, both foreign and domestic. So they diverge at that point, and you go down kind of a rabbit hole in conspiracy theories and all kinds of things that the paramilitary organizations use to basically set up targets for them to aim at, to fight against. Whereas somebody who's outside, they've sort of resolved their need to really fight in that way and choose a different path. Well, the question that I've struggled with is, if you're in a situation, if you are a Christian and you believe you are doing the right thing, but your particular church is a hyper-partisan evangelical crazy pants organization. I mean, think of if for those who know, think of Jonestown. The Jonestown massacre, where thousands of people took their lives because they believed in a cause. They believed in a cause that was right and that was true, and all this stuff, other stuff. There's examples of this throughout history. The Heaven's Gate cult and just all of these things. So when you're in it deep, when you are in so deep, how do you know you're on the right side? How do you know that the Satanists aren't the good guys? How do you know the Christians aren't the bad guys? How do you know, when you look at it from your perspective, for example, when you're looking at it from the outside and you have this 1,000-foot view, and you can go, well, these guys believe this and these guys believe that, and that is, that I believe is the correct way to do it. So, I'm on these guys' side. But if you're in the middle of it, what do? How do you know? How can you prove to yourself that you are actually correct in your beliefs? Have you ever thought about that?
No.
I believe most people haven't either, so you're probably in good company there. I don't think many people have thought about it. But I have deeply, because when and this is another podcast, big surprise.
Oh my gosh.
When I was part of the Catholic Church and I was being confirmed, there was just something about it. I was going through the confirmation classes, and just something about it bugged me. I could not put my finger on it. I could not, and I just left. And I told my parents, I don't know what it is. There's just something that just bothers me about being a Catholic. I don't know what it is. I'm not. It wasn't the fact that I was an atheist at the time. I still believed what they believed, but there was just something that just rubbed me the wrong way, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I had no idea. I didn't know at the time about any of the crimes that the Catholic Church had committed. I didn't know about the molestation issues that the Catholic Church had. I didn't know about none of that. It was just a feeling. And so I left the confirmation class, and my high school sweetheart said, well, I want to be confirmed in the Catholic Church. I think that might be important to me. And She went to one class and dropped out. That was it. That was the end of it. I kept going, but when I agreed to go with her, I said, all right, but here's the thing. It's a 3-strike rule. If they tell me something that I disagree with vehemently, I'm done. I'm out. This is, I can't, I just can't do it. Well, I'll try to remember what those 3 things were. Number one was the Trinity. Yes. Yep, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The way the Catholics perceived it, and I talked to the head of the church at the time. I knew him for many years, so I asked him, okay, so Trinity, right? This is 3 separate things. They're all part of the same group. Nope, they're the same thing. They're all God. Wait, what? He says, nope, they're all God. So how does that work? He says, well, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, they're all the same thing. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about Jesus or the Holy Spirit. It's all God, and there is no difference between them. But we talked about them as different entities, in the church. He says, yep, but they're all God. Doesn't matter.
That doesn't make sense.
And it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. Let's back up here. So, and I tried to give them an out. I said, so they're like part of the same family. So like God begat Jesus and the Holy Spirit as part of them. They're all members of the same family. That makes sense, right? Nope, they're God. That doesn't, I can't, why? Well, you can't explain God. You can't explain it. Because God is God and we are man, and man cannot explain God. I said, well, that's strike one. I said, I told him flat out, I said, look, as long as we are man, let's try to explain God in the best context we possibly can.
Yeah.
Explain it in terms that we have. You can't just say, well, it's just magic and woo, and that's it. That there's got to be more to it than that. So, strike one. Then it was the Catholic Church was anti-abortion. That was strike two. That was a pretty easy one. And by the way, these all happened on the same day.
Dang.
I got up every day. I would give them strike one, strike two, strike three. So if I got through the class and I only got to strike two, the next time I came to the class, the slate was wiped clean. So I was being incredibly fair here. I wasn't like, well, And the third thing, and I will remember it here in a moment because it was such. Oh, okay, I remember. So it was a really weird thing. The same guy, head of the church, said that confirmation class wasn't really necessary if you had First Communion. And in the Catholic Church, you had First Communion in second grade. So he said the confirmation is just a formality. You are a member of the church when you take First Communion, and you are a member of the church in second grade. So none of this matters. None of this really matters.
That doesn't really make any sense, honestly.
But it makes perfect sense because look, if you look at it from the context of the Lutherans, their First Communion, typically, at least around here, their First Communion doesn't happen until you're about 17 years old, which is the time you were going through confirmation. So the Lutherans basically made your First Communion when you join the church. So there isn't that it's all part of confirmation for the Lutherans. So in that sense, what he said actually makes sense.
Okay.
So
how did it become a third strike?
It became a third strike because it was pointless. Everything that we were going through was completely pointless. You remember, I had a big problem with pointless education. What was the point of going back to school and reviewing everything that happened in the last 6 years of education? Why are we not learning new things? We're in a new grade. We want to learn new things. We want to move forward.
Yeah.
Why are we reviewing everything that we'd learned previously? Why was there no standard of education? Well, that was the other thing. Like, one teacher did tell me that it was for any of the new kids who might not have had the same level of education that we had. Well, why is there not a standard of education throughout the whole country? Why, if you're in a grade, you are not expected to be at this level?
Yeah.
And they've changed that since, kind of, for the most part. So you are expected to be at this level, at this grade. And so hopefully they're not doing as much review in the classroom. So yeah, when the head of the church said that, it was like, well, I'll be seeing you. That was the third strike. And like I said, this all happened in one day. I had gone for a couple of weeks, and they never got to 3 strikes. One day, 3 strikes, I was gone. I never got confirmed in the Catholic Church.
Okay.
So that was my. But see, here's the thing. I think about that incident, and it's a really obvious kind of thing. Like, it's like, yeah, I was able to construct a test to see if I was on the right side. Was this for me? Was it where I wanted to go? Well, it wasn't about deprogramming myself. It wasn't about looking for inconsistencies. It was just to see whether I agreed with them or not. But when you already agree with something, then how do you figure out if that thing that you agree with is the truth, is actually good like you think it is, or like they tell you it is? How would you do that?
I don't know.
What sort of test would you come up with to try and figure out if something is good or bad?
I don't know.
See, therein lies the problem. How do you figure out if you're on the right side? So, like with some of the things that I read to you, did you agree with all of them? Don't lie, don't steal, your body is inviolable, don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
I mean, did you? They were all good things.
Yeah.
They were all They were all good things, and really, any religion is made up of people trying to be the best people that they can be.
Yeah.
And they're using it as a guideline. Well, so when it comes to religion, it technically, I mean, it matters what side you're on, and it matters who you're basing your belief system around, and things like that, because religion can really take it to the extreme, as we all know.
Yeah.
And that's not good. But if you're in it deep and don't know, how do you figure it out? Well, I've actually come up with a sort of loose way to figure it out. And the very first thing you have to do, you have to figure out where your limitations are in terms of knowledge. Do you know you have to acknowledge the fact that you don't know everything about everything.
Yeah.
That's the start of it. Then you have to figure out where your knowledge ends. You have to figure out where your knowledge ends, because there's a lot of what I like to call substitutionary knowledge in these in groups of any sort, really. Religion is does a lot of substitutionary knowledge, and if you're in a normal kind of mainstream religion that's not on the fringes, you've kind of the way that a lot of, for example, I work for a bunch of churches in the area, and I've had talks with the pastors of those churches, and they take a very common sense approach to their religion. It's like, yes, this is what we believe, but science is a thing too.
Yeah.
So you can believe what you want to believe, but you can also acknowledge that science is a thing, and that there are things that we understand that the people in the Bible did not, and we can sort of reconcile it that way. And they take a very common sense and practical approach to their religion, and that's great. But then there are the other ones, and I've actually been I've been a part of some mega churches that preach fire and brimstone. And if you know what fire and brimstone is, once again, another podcast. If you know what fire and brimstone is, you'll understand that if your preacher preaches fire and brimstone, they don't actually understand their own religion. It's basically just the priest is letting out frustration over one thing or another, and trying to scare people into compliance and that type of thing. It actually has nothing to do with the Bible, but that I will Gigsplain that at another time.
Okay.
But some of the big churches and some of the evangelical churches, they get a little too deep in the weeds. They present a lot of substitutionary knowledge where they want to say, no, the Bible is true, science is a lie. Well, to give you an example from the Pastafarian religion, what do you think the Pastafarian theory of gravity is? Because there is no Christian theory of gravity.
There isn't?
Nope. But the Pastafarians have one.
Well, I don't know what it is.
Do you know what what gravity is?
Yes.
Scientifically.
It keeps us on the ground and not floating up.
Yeah, two masses have gravity and are naturally attracted to each other.
Yeah.
So your mass is attracted to the Earth, and the Earth's mass is attracted to you, and the bigger the object, the more gravity it has.
Yeah.
So.
And the more heavy it is.
Right. That's not the Pastafarians' view.
Okay, so what is it?
Pastafarians' theory of gravity is that the flying spaghetti monster, who is invisible to us,
Yeah.
uses his many tentacles and presses each person down against the earth to make sure we don't fly off of it.
Okay.
That is the Pastafarian theory of gravity. And some people are touched more than others. So he presses some people down harder than others. That's why you have midgets. Their words, not mine. So
that's why you have midgets.
That's why you have midgets, because they are touched more by the flying spaghetti monster. That's why they're short. That's why you're shorter than I am, because you've been touched more.
I'm still growing, kind of. Kind of.
Yeah, that remains to be seen. Shut
up.
but you have been touched more by the flying spaghetti monster than I have been.
So the flying spaghetti monster has around 8 billion tentacles.
Sure, why not? It can have as many as it wants.
Okay.
And I know this is I never intended this to be a religious podcast, but but yeah, that's it's one of those things where it has no. But the point of the point of the Pastafarian theory of gravity is that it has no basis in fact. We can make up whatever nonsense we want to and make it work to fit the facts that we see, but in order to figure out how it works and what it is and whatnot, you need science.
Yeah.
And your great grandmother on my it's on my dad's side said she was very devoutly religious. She was very Lutheran. And she said that we have what we believe, and that's fine. God exists. Jesus came down. We believe all that, whatever. He said we have what we believe, and we have how we understand the world. And science is how we understand the world, and religion is what we believe. We don't have to reconcile the two. We don't have to, and it's the very similar approach to the way that the local priests approach their religion. It's like we have what we believe, and that's fine, and that's our commonality. But we also have science and how we understand the world around us, how we understand, as they put it, God's creation.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm not trying to turn this into a religious podcast. So how do you know you're on the right side?
Back at it again.
Back at it again. We sort of took a detour through religiosity, and I like I said, this isn't intended to be a religious podcast. This is, but religion is one of those things where that was the example we gave at the top of the podcast. How do you know? It's because it's not just as simple as you're a Satanist and I'm a Catholic, or you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat, or you're a liberal and I'm a conservative. There's right and wrong to be had. So we've already talked about, you have to understand that you don't know everything about everything. You have to understand that you have to kind of understand where your limits are in terms of what you know and what you don't know. That really helps, but honestly, that's sort of an optional step.
Yeah.
What you really need, the real meat of the problem, is you have to look for any inaccuracy that doesn't jive with reality. So you're going to encounter, no matter what side you're on, you are going to come across mistakes. People are going to give you the wrong information accidentally.
Yeah.
You're going to encounter things that are wrong, but aren't necessarily a lie.
We're people.
So there's a difference between a lie and somebody who made a mistake. And to be able to understand the difference between the two is often the difference between an extremist and somebody who's more in the middle. So if you can understand that if you can look for the inaccuracy that doesn't jive with reality. So the inaccuracy that just has nothing to do with reality, has no basis in reality, is not backed up with evidence, that's a lie. And if you confront somebody who told you that, and they don't recount, instead they backpedal or they try to cover it up, that's a lie.
Yeah.
So you look for, you then, you can also look for the hypocrisy. If they say one thing and do another, or there's two different rules for two different people, or they apply a rule for this set of people, but it doesn't apply to these people because they're the chosen ones, as it were, to borrow a phrase, or anything like that. That the hypocrisy, where one thing applies to one people and one thing applies to a different people, or one rule applies here but it doesn't apply over here when it's the same situation. So you have the same thing but different rules to apply to the same thing, or the same situation, or the same anything. And that, in a nutshell, is how you know you're on the right side. So if you take that, and the looking for the hypocrisy is the key, because as I mentioned before, when you look at it from the 1,000-foot viewpoint, you can actually see that one group, the group that is trying to tell the truth, trying to do the right thing, they will often back themselves up with facts and figures and surveys and all this other stuff. It will be their truth will be tested over and over and over again, much like science does.
Yeah.
And these other people will just kind of pull a fact out of their butt and try to defend it. And it can't, when they defend it, they apply it kind of as they see fit. They apply the defense as they see fit. This is kind of an extreme example, but somebody who hates somebody else. So that's a really easy hypocrisy to uncover. So if you hate this particular group or a group of individuals, but you are the good guy because you hate this group of individuals. Yeah, but you're all people.
Yeah.
You're all people. So you're a person, I'm a person, the people over there are people, the people listening are people, everybody's a people.
Unless they're aliens. Oh no. No, I'm joking.
Lizard people, like in V.
V?
V, yeah, it was an old TV show.
Okay.
That's they looked like humans, but then they took their disguises off and they were lizard people. And so
Okay.
But anyway, barring that, everybody's a person. But the thing is this group, the group that they hate, is somehow dehumanized, somehow against your group that you're a part of. But wait a minute, if you hate these people, then you can start drilling down into what are the excuses that they're giving.
Yeah.
Like hate for immigrants. What are these people doing to you? Well, they're taking your jobs, and they're overrunning the country, and they're taking your hard-earned tax dollars, and they're doing. It's like, some of it's half truth, some of it's not true at all, some of it's, but it doesn't matter the lie. It doesn't really matter the lie. It matters the hypocrisy. So why are the immigrants coming over the southern border a problem and worthy of hate, but the people coming in from Ukraine who are refugees don't deserve the hate? Or people coming in from Norway, or people immigrating into the country in other ways. Why are those guys bad and those guys... See, there's the hypocrisy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it requires some thought. And if you don't think about it, well, you're never going to know. You're just going to keep trying to defend the side you're on. And, it takes some thought and takes some empathy.
Yeah.
You know how, like I said, not to turn this into the religious podcast, but I'm going to give you 3 guesses. So it's trivia time.
Oh, yay.
I'll give you 3 chances to get this right. There was one reason, only one reason, where I basically walked away from religion. I had been a Catholic. I'd been married in a Methodist church. I'd been married in a Lutheran church, and I am currently married Episcopalian. But we did it out at your grandfather's, grandfather's house or whatever. We didn't do it that one. We didn't do it in a church, but we had an Episcopalian priest, and your grandmother, who's also Episcopalian, was in attendance and was part of the ceremony and everything. So, but, and of course I'm an ordained minister in the Pastafarian Church. I have friends who are Satanists. I'm giving you big clues here. So before I ask the question, I have friends who are Hindu. I have friends who are all sorts of religion. Have done all sorts of religion, even though I haven't been myself. There's one I really want to say, but I don't want to get it wrong. It's like a Baha'i. It's a Baha'i. There's a Catholic, or not Catholic, but a Christianity sect that's kind of extreme, and it's like Baha'i, Bahai, Baha'i Bris or something like that. Anyway, don't at me because I'm having a hard time remembering what it is, but regardless, so I have friends from all walks of life. What's the one reason I walked away from religion? It's only one reason. And go.
Bruh.
Take a guess. You got 3 guesses. Let's see if you can get it right. Gave you tons of clues. Actually, the tons of little clues added up to one really big clue. Take a stab at it. Go on. Don't be shy. Microphone's right in front of you.
I know. I can literally see it right now, even though I'm looking at you.
Yep. So?
Yeah. So I know it's there.
Okay. So?
I don't know.
Take a guess. Any guess at all. There are no dumb answers, only dumb people.
Bruh. Bruh.
One guess, any guess at all.
I don't
know. Because you were never brought up religious at all, really.
Yeah.
You were like baptized, but you were a baby when you were baptized.
Yeah, I was a tiny baby.
Yeah.
Not like Big Boy that works at Little Caesars. Remember, he looked like he ate.
Well, your grandmother liked to bring in religion. In fact, my parents were like to drop it in once in a while and say this is how we believe, and the way they did it, I guess it's not. I'd like to say that it was damaging to what we were how you were bringing you up, but it really wasn't, because it wasn't normal. Your normal was we don't pray at the dinner table or whatever.
Yeah.
Because do you remember that?
Nope.
So we were at I think it was Thanksgiving, around Thanksgiving something. We drove out to Atlanta or whatever. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. I can't remember. It's just, I don't know.
Well, don't ask me because I don't know.
You don't remember. I know you were there, and I know they said grace at the table, and my mom concluded, well, this is how we believe. And like I said, I really want to talk down and vilify that, but honestly, it was just, it wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't, I remember being angry about it at the time, but I didn't say anything. I just was like, well, yeah, I mean, okay. But honestly, it didn't, there was never, it was just like this thing that happened. Because it wasn't, it was out of the ordinary for you guys.
Yeah.
So, and you guys, and you don't even remember it. So
Nope.
It doesn't even matter. Really doesn't matter. But there's been other instances where people have tried to enforce their beliefs on you, and it happens to adults too. Like these people proselytize, and it's annoying even to people who believe. Like, for people who believe, it's like they don't think it's nice. They think it's annoying. They think it's like, yeah, I already believe. You know,
You need.
Why are you telling me?
Like in gym class, I was like in gym, and we were like playing outside with like, whatever we were playing. We were playing outside with whatever we were playing, and these girls walk up. It's like, do you believe in God? I'm like, no, I'm an atheist. And they were like, well, you need God in your life.
Yeah.
No.
See, there's people out there like that, and they just can't. They want to, especially evangelical churches. That's their whole point. They want to spread the word, and they want to, and that's, honestly, that's just not. That's just not right. That creates more atheists.
Yeah.
It's like, you should have God in your life. Well, why? I've been getting along fine without him.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Here's the thing. And we're gonna, there's a podcast planned that's gonna talk about this some more. But there was a time when you didn't go out and proselytize to people. Churches generally didn't do that. What they did is they were involved in the community in a secular way. And so the Catholics would wear their collars and whatnot, but they would be doing something else. They would be helping to feed the homeless, for example, or they would be, I don't know, they'd be involved in a secular thing. They wouldn't be out there on the street corner saying the end is near and repent, sinner, that type of thing.
Yeah.
It's that's kind of recent. It's not really, but the whole proselytizing thing is not a normal thing to do. But do you have a guess yet?
No.
It's the existence of other religions.
Oh.
That's what took me away from religion altogether. Because what makes I applied these rules that I just mentioned in this podcast to my own religious beliefs, and went, well, what makes me right and everybody else wrong? Why is there not an 8-armed god named Shiva sitting above us that is lording is lording over us, instead of a guy with a bushy beard and sitting on a cloud?
Yeah.
And that's a real kindergarten way to put it, but why is my God correct and your God isn't? There are 3,000 gods in history. Probably more. But 3,000 that we know of. What makes yours right and mine wrong? Or what makes mine right and yours wrong? Who knows? Your grandmother would say I was led down the path of Satanism. But I don't believe in him either, so... It's not... I don't hate anybody for having a religion. Honestly, I don't care if you have a religion. I don't care if you thank God for everything in your life today.
Yeah.
And that's a whole whole podcast in and of itself. But like I said, this isn't the religion podcast. You just got to figure out whether you're on the right side or not.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, it really goes trying to figure out whether you're on the right side or not really goes deep into religion and politics, and unfortunately that's sort of where it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to do an atheism podcast too.
Okay.
So that'll just be 1 hour of dead air because you believe in nothing, so there's nothing to talk about. Right? That's how it works.
Yep.
Not quite that simple, but
no.
This got a little bit more into religion than politics and religion than I wanted it to. Yeah, I just wanted to discuss, how do you figure out when you're on the right side? Well, look for the hypocrisy is the bottom line. Look for the inconsistencies. Because if you have hypocrisy and you have inconsistency, chances are there's an agenda there. There's an agenda underneath that. And whether you know about it or not is immaterial, but somebody's lying to you somewhere, and that's just not right.
Yeah.
Do not lie.
Yeah, don't lie.
Thou shalt not lie. Again, that's just from my point of view, and hopefully you found this useful and an intriguing discussion. And whatever you believe, I've been Mr. Gigabytes for the Gigsplained podcast. As always, with me is
his sidekick Serenity.
So, thank you all for watching and listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.